Hello, friends, and welcome back to the final week of the Cinderella movie marathon. My name is Matt, and I have 2 degrees, and I have been waiting for tonight. Oh, I thought I was going to sing a song from the show, then it kind of turned into West Side Story, and kind of turned into me changing the lyrics to A Lovely Night. Anyway, tonight we're talking about my personal favorite Cinderella movie, the 1997 Wonderful World of Disney, Whitney Houston, made for TV, produced Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella. This movie, oh gosh, there's such a legacy with this specific musical and TV. This musical was written for television. It might have been one of the very first live television musical theater broadcasts. It was in 1957. It was black and white with Julie Andrews as Cinderella. And yeah, when you go back and rewatch it, it feels like a live TV event from 1957. The camera work's not that impressive. The special effects aren't that good. But it's Julie Andrews, and it's really well-written material. Anyway, less than 10 years later, in the 1960s, it was done on TV again, this time in color. This time, I don't think it was live. It was just shot and then broadcast on TV with Leslie Ann Warren, who, if anyone is familiar with the Tim Curry movie Clue, she's Miss Scarlet in that. And those are the only 2 things I know her from. I also, I have probably seen the Leslie Ann Warren Cinderella. I think it was a staple VHS rental of my childhood pre-1997. I just don't remember it that well. I know she has an orange dress. But anyway, to me, Leslie Ann Warren is always going to be Miss Scarlet. But this movie, this hits me right in the childhood. This came out when I was 10 years old. Now you know how old I am. In 1997. And it was part of the Wonderful World of Disney lineup. So from my memory, at least, is in 1997, Disney was really revamping the Wonderful World of Disney. It was a big deal. Obviously some iteration of Wonderful World of Disney had been around for a long time, since it was Walt Disney Presents Wonderful World of Color, all that fun stuff. But in 97, they rebranded it. They had Michael Eisner introduce the films, and they put a lot of money behind doing original content for the Wonderful World of Disney. And so as part of this inaugural season, they did movies that have kind of fallen into obscurity. There was Toothless with Kirstie Alley, where she played a corrupt tooth fairy. There was, I feel like there was one with Mara Wilson called The Balloon Farm. There was one of my personal favorites, the Tower of Terror movie with Steve Guttenberg. And for me, that was the main attraction of this season. But the one that everyone paid a lot of attention to was this film, the Whitney Houston produced Cinderella. And to me back then, it was just okay, well, that's just one in this lineup. And I didn't really understand why people were making such a big deal of this movie specifically compared to the Tower of Terror movie, but they were. And now I get it. And so we're going to talk about it tonight. Anyway, let's see who we have in the comments with us. We have my mom and my cats. They didn't like the movie. Just a heads up. Sabrina is here. I don't think she was sleeping. I think she was hiding. Now, Eliza claims she doesn't like it, but I think that's partially a mistruth, because as soon as the film started and Whitney sang, Eliza ran into the living room to watch. So whatever Eliza may think of this movie, the voice of Whitney Houston called to her. And then we've got my mom, who said the movie was fun and great for a young audience. Not a favorite. I don't know why it's not a favorite, Martha. It's so good. Anyway, let's bring in our guest. Might be our only guest for this evening, but she's great. She's worth 12 people. Look, everyone, it's Jeanette.
Yes, I'm worth 12 people.
Yeah. Or a baker's dozen, 13.
Oh my goodness.
Right? Jeanette, welcome. Jeanette, what's your favorite Rodgers and Hammerstein musical?
This one. I never remember which ones are Rodgers and Hammerstein. I know that many are, but I never remember which ones are. Jog my memory. What other ones do I know that are Rodgers and Hammerstein?
There's Flower Drum Song, a classic, the first all-Asian cast in a musical. I feel like racial stereotypes are abound, but that's just an assumption. Maybe they're not. There's Flower Drum Song. There's Carousel, which is probably my personal favorite, even though it's considered very problematic. I think it jogs a lot of interesting discussion, and it's a very well-written musical. So Carousel is probably my personal favorite, but then there's Sound of Music, which of course is...
well, if Sound of Music is one of them, then it's probably that.
Yeah, Sound of Music?
It's probably that. Yeah.
Oh, South Pacific. South Pacific has some bangers. Like, I'm gonna wash that man right out of my hair. I'm gonna wash.
No, Sound of Music, I could probably sing most of that movie in my sleep. And
Okay.
then I have wonderful, I don't know if it's wonderful. I should probably not be proud of this, but I was about, a few Baron Jaegers deep at a German restaurant, and I sang Edelweiss with the with the Oompa Bear, or whatever the band is.
With the Oompa band?
I don't have any German heritage whatsoever. I don't
Like,
know.
was there the guy with the giant trombone thing? Just boom, boom,
There's
boom?
a lady with a big squeeze box
Oh,
thing, and then
nice.
there is somebody on brass. There is a brass section. But yeah,
Nice.
I guess I sang Edelweiss. I do remember it, but like at the same time, like I'm sure I don't remember embarrassing myself.
That sounds amazing. I
Yeah.
love that. My thing with Sound of Music is that the movie is so far superior to the stage show. On stage, it's still
See, I've
good.
never seen the stage show. I just love the
This is
movie.
like almost, I'd say 95% of audiences know it from the movie, so including me. And so when you go see the stage show, it's very jarring because songs are in different places where you
That's
expect
what
them
I've heard.
yeah, like Lonely Goat Herd happens on stage in the scene where in the movie it's My Favorite Things During the Storm. So like you don't get to see the puppet show, which like makes sense. That's very much a movie thing versus a like
Yeah.
community theater can afford to have expensive marionettes thing. Oh yeah, My Favorite Things is actually sung by the main nun and Maria because she's like, Maria, are you scared to go and leave the abbey? Just think of your favorite things. Like what, Mother Superior? Like raindrops on roses and whiskers. It's like it's a
What
mess. It's a
One of my
mess.
other favorite things in this has nothing to do with the music, but one of my other favorite things in Sound of Music is something that RuPaul always quotes on her show, which is, "What is it you can't face?"
That's a classic.
Yes, so
Classic.
that cracks me up every time. Yeah, I don't know. I think if Julie Andrews is in something, it probably like automatically moves it up like
Oh yeah.
a few tiers. So like who knows if I'd have liked Sound of Music if it wasn't Julie Andrews. I don't know. And Christopher Plummer for that matter.
Oh God, Canadian Treasure. Just everything. That movie, that's like a almost perfect movie. And yeah, oh, and I just made the connection that Julie Andrews was in this, that she was original Cinderella and also Rodgers and Hammerstein. She was
There you
like,
go.
yeah, I don't think she ever did Nellie in South Pacific. She wouldn't have been good as
I
Nellie.
think she's one of the best, in my opinion, she's one of the best like whimsical musical people you can have. Like I don't
Sure.
know if she fits all musicals. I don't know if I want to see Julie Andrews and Sweeney Todd, but like I mean maybe I do. But like
Yeah, no,
uh
I think she has her thing that she does really well. But I haven't seen Thoroughly Modern Millie. I've seen the stage show, so like I know enough what the character is and what the story is. And imagining her as like a 1920s flapper girl, which is what that movie slash musical is, it's like I don't see it. I watched a few clips. I was like, you're just Julie Andrews, but you're very British in like a very American setting. And like,
yeah, like I can't see her
you're
in
not flapper.
Chicago.
No. Speaking of Chicago, this is one of the things I was going to mention in my opening notes. That it's part of the reason I think I love this movie so much. Is that this was choreographed by Rob Marshall, director of Chicago and choreographer of
Ah,
Chicago.
yeah.
And he, like the year following this, he directed and choreographed the made-for-TV Annie, which I strongly believe is the best Annie movie ever made. And part of the reason I love this film so much, which I'll get into later, but since I'm talking about Rob now, is I feel like you can almost tell scenes in this that were, I would wager to say, legit fully directed by him and not the
Mm-hmm.
credited director, because there are certain sequences where the camera blocking is so good, and then other sequences where it's just kind of okay, like it's at the level of She's All That, which was also directed
Yeah.
by the director of this, which I think is funny.
Julie Andrews tie-in. I knew it. I'm like sitting here thinking, I was like, Rob Marshall. First of all, I had just learned about him directing Chicago because that's not like my favorite thing. I just heard about it on a video, like in deep dive video. But he also directed the Mary Poppins Returns, which
He
Julie
did.
Andrews
Oh my
isn't in,
gosh.
obviously. But I mean, like, there's the tie-in with it. So
Yeah.
and wow, Into the Woods.
And Into the
Wow,
Woods, and
jeez
the pirate
Louise.
movie with the mermaid.
Yep. And he did the newer Little Mermaid.
Yep. Yeah,
Wow.
Rob Marshall is one of my favorite directors. He's not without flaws, and some of his movies are hit and miss, but like I feel when he hits so well.
Memoirs of a Geisha. I mean,
Yeah.
the Academy loved that one anyway.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
no, Rob, like I think yeah. A lot of people don't like him, but I feel like he makes good movies. Like Nine, not a good movie, but it has good elements.
I feel like I've heard so many things that like were handed to him or were offered to him and he either passed or he left the project or something. I feel like he's in the background of a lot of things that I listen to like deep dives on.
That makes
So
sense.
I feel like he has his thumb in a lot of pies as far as like the things he can do. He's a
Yeah,
jack of all trades.
yeah, yeah. I love Robbie. I love Rob Marshall. But what else do I love? I love this movie. So let's talk about this movie, 1997 Cinderella. Now, was this your first time seeing it, Jeanette?
It's since I first saw it. Yeah. So I
Do
would
you
just say,
remember
yeah.
what that
I
was
like
like?
Yeah, like I remember watching it. I remember not watching it when it first came on. I remember watching it on some reviewing, like whatever rerun they had of it later on. Because I remember, like you, the hype around it and the big deal. And I remember my Disney Adventures magazines having everything about this in it. And I didn't watch it when it first came out because my mom and dad just like my dad. I don't think my dad can stand musicals. And my mom, not super into musicals, but like she loves Sound of Music and Grease. So like but she wasn't super into this, so I had to seek it out. But I remember liking it at the time. And I mean, I don't know if we want to go into what this viewing was like or not, but I liked it this time.
Nice. Yeah, I distinctly remember the day it premiered on TV. I remember the Sunday evening because my mom and dad took me to Swiss Chalet, which is a very Canadian sentence to say, and we were like really trying to get back by 7 to see it, and we didn't like we just missed it, and so I think we got home by like it was still early enough. Like I think I got to see Jason Alexander rocking the princess having a ball in the courtyard. Like I got to see that
Uh-huh.
musical number, but like I missed the scene when she met him in the market where it's like I'm sure they were going somewhere very important and the sweetest sounds, but we did tape it. So I had it on grainy VHS, and then I bought it when it was legit distributed on VHS in like the puffy case. And then when I joined Disney Movie Club in my 20s, that was one of like the inaugural 5 DVDs I bought for $1 because I wanted it on DVD.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, like I also had the junior novelization as well that came out.
Oh.
Yeah, so like I'm deeply invested in this film. And I've always loved it. I've also revisited it every few years, so I've never been too far removed from it, and I've just always continually found new things to appreciate. But that said, yeah, let's dive into how we felt on this specific rewatch. For me, after watching other Cinderella movies, definitely certain weaknesses stood out. Like it did, like if going from the Kenneth Branagh like 10 years ago mega budget like visual spectacle that is to this made for TV thing, watching on like a 4K TV, I was like, okay, there's a visual difference here. But in some ways that lends itself to something that I've always appreciated about this movie is that like you could tell that they had a lot of money that went in certain places, like the cast mostly, and like
Costuming. Yeah.
but I also feel like some of the limitations they just push through with really good staging and really good choreography. Like it's the Rob Marshall of it all. I do think Brandy's acting is a weak point, probably the biggest weak point.
One of the notes I put down, because I had a lot of big thoughts about it.
Right.
So I put down that her acting is okay, but her acting while she's singing is much better. Like
Yes.
the emotion and the pantomiming that she gives when she's singing is way more like conveying a lot more to me than her acting outside of that.
100%. And I think that's the thing that stood out to me on this rewatch specifically is that the strength of this movie for me is the supporting cast. Like Brandy and the Prince are fine. And I think the Prince is spectacular. Like I appreciated him more on this rewatch than I ever have before because I think I realized he's kind of, I don't want to say he's hand holding Brandy because she holds her own very much so, but like she's not an actor, let's say.
I think
I
they
think
just didn't give either of those. Maybe the writer, I mean, which is Rodgers and Hammerstein, presumably.
Oh no, they had the script was rewritten for this.
Okay, so like I just don't think that they gave Cinderella and the Prince as much depth as the supporting cast. I feel like the supporting cast has more story to them than Cinderella and the Prince do.
Interesting. In some ways, I disagree, just because the main reason that this has always been my favorite Cinderella is largely, well, outside of the really cool stuff, like the cast and the music, which I love, which we'll discuss. But my biggest sticking point with this is that I do think there's a maturity to the writing that is missing from a lot of other adaptations, where like this is the only Cinderella movie I could think of that outright addresses the question of why are you staying in this family. And like she says like, oh well, I promised my father I would, and like they're the only family I have. And then she, through going to the ball, makes the choice of like, I deserve to be loved. And I think on paper the monologue that she gives when she goes outside and like talks to her dead dad in the sky is beautiful. And I think Brandy does a solid job. I think a stronger actor would have been able to lead up to that moment from the first moment she was on screen, because Brandy is just kind of existing in it, as opposed to later the way Lily James would, let's say, like all the subtext that leads us to that revelation. Because you don't really get the impression through Brandy's acting that she's suffering as much as the character should be to have that moment of be loved and I want to leave. But the thing that I love about this movie is it's the only one where Cinderella is literally packing up and leaving, and she picks herself over the prince, over her family, and then it just kind of works out anyway. And I love
it. No, I did enjoy that. I enjoyed her trying to leave the ball early. Like she does have more sense than most other Cinderellas. I will go with that. I think the thing I mean, I guess, is like, and maybe it's the acting, maybe that's what I was getting, is it's just like I felt like all of the other characters had something where I was kind of like, not like, I felt like I was still getting to know them through the movie. Whereas like Cinderella, I was 10 minutes in, I was like, okay, well, I got you. I got her and the prince. I was like, okay. But no, I mean, it's not bad. It just was something I noticed.
Yeah, for sure. Anything else stand out to you on this rewatch?
I mean, a lot of things. Once again in this, well, if we're on the acting, I'll stick with the acting. I think that Bernadette Peters is not supported very well. She's amazing, and you can see it because the scenes that she's in, with the scene with, let's say, the scene or scenes that she's in with Jason Alexander, it's some of the best things that happened the whole movie. So I love that. I'm also, everybody should know, I'm just a big Jason Alexander fan. Like I haven't watched a lot of his theater stuff, but I think he is the funniest part of Seinfeld. I think he is the funniest part of Hunchback of Notre Dame. I think I think he's awesome in everything. Freaking, what is it? Is it Shallow Hal? Whatever movie that was. Like he's good in that. Like literally anything I've ever, Pretty Woman. Mm-hmm. Like he can play a villain. That's great. I think he's awesome. But the scenes where they're together, you can see, and I mean, obviously Bernadette Peters is a good actress. Everybody knows that. But then in the scenes with the stepsisters and in the scenes with Brandy, I feel like when you said hand holding, I feel like she's doing the hand holding in those scenes, very much so. And then what's the other? Oh, I mean, I love Whoopi. I always have, but the guy, and I can never remember his name.
Victor Garber. He's a Canadian treasure.
I just call him the Titanic guy, but I love the Titanic guy. He's awesome. And they have really great chemistry, which like put names in a hat and draw those. And I don't know that I would tell you that was the case, but like I thought they were awesome. I miss Whoopi being in movies so much. Like this just made me miss Whoopi more. I was like,
And I was like, the woman doesn't age. She looks I feel like she looks pretty well exactly the same.
She's like a Jeff Goldblum, where like she aged, but she didn't look like she aged. She just changed how she looked.
Yeah,
like she just changed her style or something. Mm-hmm. Like you didn't actually age. You just like changed your hair and got glasses and like changed your wardrobe. That's it.
Yeah, agreed. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, well I guess on the point of the acting, like one of the things that I stood out to me, especially on this rewatch, was it was interesting, again, going from last week's film, which to me is very grounded in reality and has very subtle, nuanced acting that is basically like a period drama, because that's what it is, and going to this, which is much campier. But what I think it does so well is that like everyone is existing in the same world in this movie. Like there's a very cohesive vision for what the style of acting is in this film, and they're all so over the top without it being at the expense of their humanity. Like they're still very grounded as like real people, but in a heightened way.
It's almost more of a Kenneth Branagh style of acting.
Actually, yes. This feels more like a
Kenneth Branagh movie. Yeah, I'm like, that's honestly how his Shakespeare films are. So like, I kind of feel like, yeah, you're like, that's true. It's campy, but it's not campy all the way through to the bone. It's like a surface camp, but everybody's holding it down.
Just everything is heightened. That's the thing. It's all still there. Like all the people who are good actors, which I think it's everyone except for Cinderella and the Prince, like they know the style of the movie and they're acting in it. And the stepsisters to me are just so interesting in this film because they're so old, but there's something charming about it because it just feels like, okay, this is very much a movie.
It makes it feel more like a play, like an actual like Broadway production, because you're like, oh yeah, well they wouldn't have gotten teenagers, they would have gotten people who are all the same age, and they're just one's the sister and one's the mom. Like,
and there's one moment that Minerva has when she's at the ball and she's about to dance with Chris that I've never noticed before. It's so subtle, but it's hilarious where he puts out his hand and she just looks at it, she's like, and just this little, like, that actress is hilarious. Like everything she does, like she goes really big most of the time, but even just her little nuanced things, like to me, that was another moment that just sold me on this movie of like everyone who's on screen is making a choice every single second, which I think it would be so easy in a movie that's this over the top and opulent to just not be that specific, to just be like, it's a kid's movie. We could just phone it in, but nobody does, which I think is what makes it so good.
To your point about everybody kind of being cohesive and in the same place and all of that, I like that this movie doesn't try to find a time period and stay in it. It's like, this is just a fairy tale land.
Yeah.
This fountain is from the late 1800s. This door is from the 1920s. This dress is from the 1980s. Like, none of it really makes sense if you're looking for that, but it doesn't need to because it is just a fairy tale. And I think some of these Cinderella movies, and it's great, I'm glad they go through the historical accuracy and all that. I know on Ever After they did that to some degree. On the Kenneth Branagh one, they did that to some degree. And I'm like, cool. I don't necessarily need that in a fairy tale if you're going to present it as a fairy tale.
Yeah.
And so like I noticed it and then I wasn't upset about it. I was like, okay, well that's fine. The only thing, so I mean maybe this moves us into like set design and stuff. I don't know, but like that fountain is awful.
Three of them holding hands.
No, just with the fountain. Like I don't know if you noticed, like the fountain is painted. It's painted an awful color, first of all, but then also there's like these weird like 80s shapes, just like triangles
is this the
and
fountain
squares
at the palace or
in the town square.
Oh, okay. I feel like this movie has a lot of fountains.
There might be a lot of fountains. There is. There's a swan fountain.
Yeah. I was thinking of the Step Family fountain, like the stone statue of the three of them that's out on the lawn.
No. So that was hilarious. No, this is, I don't even know what the actual like spouting structure is, but at the base there's this, it's awful, and they zoom in on it a couple of times and I'm like, oh, this is the only part of this set, like I don't know if you remember going places and seeing this aesthetic. Like again, like Ever After focused on one aesthetic. They kind of went on a thing that had been attractive for a while, and it was kind of starting to fizzle out or actually morph into what this is, which is like, I don't even know what the name of this movement was, but it was kind of like Dali and Gaudi met Gautier, like the designer. And there was like always these neutral backgrounds with like earth tones and bright colored whimsical shapes on it. Like there were little swirls, there were circles, like, and they have that throughout this. And I remember going to like fancy restaurants that were decorated like this.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Okay. I think I know what
so
you mean.
like specifically there was a restaurant I grew up with called Sunray Grill that was like the trendy restaurant. Like that was the cutting edge, cool, that was the fancy celebration dinner place. And it looked like the inside of their house, of the stepmother's house. And I loved it. I ate it up. I thought that was the coolest. And like the inside of the nature company looked like this a little bit before they shut down. I just remember this aesthetic and I love it. I love when these movies, like, you can really bite on to when they're from. Even though, again, this thing does not commit to a single time or look or whatever. Everything is very all over the place, but yet somehow cohesive. They picked a color, like, these hues to stick with.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, and I think it's one of the reasons that I love it is, everything is so committed. It doesn't necessarily make sense. And I mean, certain things do definitely feel like they're dated in the 90s, but I think it's just stuff that was in some way out of their control, even just like the aesthetic of the video that they were using, like the actual look of it, as opposed to like the production design. I feel like more or less you could port that into a movie today, and like it would still hold its own as this very opulent, stylized, campy fairy tale movie. Yeah, and like the step family dresses are so over the top, and at the same time, I think kind of beautiful.
Again, like, I thought it was really their dresses are on the brighter end of the scale, but I think, again, like, everything is very cohesive. The color palette during the ball, like the big dance ball scene, I thought with the blues and purples was really pretty. In their house, if you notice, there's a peacock over the door. And I love that there's another peacock reference. And I'm like, I've never read the book Cinderella. I don't know if there's like a thing about the stepmother having peacocks or something.
Which other movie?
In Ever After.
Oh, okay. Peacock feather, right? Was that a thing? Like
she was dressed as the peacock for the ball. She was like, I was supposed to be the peacock.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So like, I don't know. I just thought that was interesting that the stepsisters and mother had like a peacock reference again. I thought that was interesting. And then what was the other thing? Oh, with the aesthetics and everything, Whitney Houston's whole, like, not just her outfit, but everything they surround her with when she's on screen is a choice. It is a really big choice.
Thingies, like all the little CGI.
Again, like the little whirlies and triangles and squares. I'm like, who went with this? They were like, we need whirly gigs on everything. We need little swirls on. I want it on the fountain. I want it in the house. I want it surrounding Whitney Houston when she magically appears.
All I can think of is like knowing how much of a hand Whitney had in this film. I just feel like it's a Whitney choice. I think Whitney was
very well could be. And I gotta tell, like, do you remember those music video places in the mall where you could go in front of a green screen? Yeah. I feel like every time Whitney was on screen, it looked like that. And that's 1997's fault. That's not Whitney Houston's fault. I mean, it's the same year Spawn came out. Go watch that. There's not much to be done about it. But
some of the Whitney effects on a new TV, they're rough.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing. This is remastered, right? It's put on an HD television in potentially 4K for someone, like whatever the heck it is. All these new things. We're not doing any of these people any favors. The CGI people, the set dressers, the makeup people, like, we're not doing them any favors by looking at it like this. But also her outfit is like, it's the worst outfit in the whole movie. I'm sorry. Whitney Houston's outfit, it is a gold leotard. You want a little old
lady in a tutu sprinkling fairy dust?
It is a lady in a gold leotard. The gold leotard would have been fine. Leave the gold leotard alone. But no, they stuck plastic gems sporadically. So like when you cluster plastic gems, they look much more lush. You can't tell that they're like cheap. But when you spread them out all over, they look like hot glued plastic gems. And then they did the thing with the sleeve, which again, that's a beautiful detail. But when you have a cheap undergarment that you're attaching it to, you need to keep it fully against this. So this looks nice and luxurious. No, they had it fastened here, fastened here, fastened here. So it was more like a bat wing when she lifted her arm. And I'm like, oh no, what they do to Whitney. But again, it had to be a Whitney, like, she okayed it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, I like it. Maybe even Whitney, I'm now imagining just Whitney made it herself.
I literally
picture Whitney like with the glue gun and I got it. they're like, Whitney,
She
we have a
went to the
costume to put.
Rainbow. She went to the Rainbow store. I don't know if y'all got Rainbow up there in Canada. She went to the Rainbow store. She got her an $8 bodysuit, and she went down to the Michaels, and she got her some plant gems, the kinds that your grandma puts around the bottom of the plant. No, because those are glass. Those are too nice for even. These were like the flat back, like the ones that come with the Pretty Pretty Princess board game. Like, it was bad. Oh my God, and they kept shooting her really close too. Like, they'd be right up on her, and I'm like,
this is so crazy
so
because I have no real natural fashion instincts, so I've just always thought of Whitney's costume as being like the most beautiful thing on screen in this.
It's drag. I'll tell you that. It's
Okay.
drag for sure. Right. Whether it's good drag, I don't know, but it's drag. That's for sure.
Actually, yeah. Oh, Whitney, we love you. I think we should talk about Whitney because she is such a presence in this film. I don't think I mentioned in my preamble like the fact that Whitney is the sole reason basically that this movie exists. So it starts in 93 with our friend Bette Midler because she made a TV adaptation of Gypsy, which I also have on VHS somewhere, and it's pretty good. And that reignited people thinking like, oh, TV musicals, let's bring them back. And then Whitney got in on the conversation. And since this musical already had like a rich TV history, she was attached very early on from like 93 to produce it and then to star as Cinderella. But then the production kept on getting delayed, and like she had a baby, and by the time it actually got to the point where it was going to happen, she was like, I feel like I'm too old now to be Cinderella. So that's when she extended the offer to Brandy because they knew each other just, I guess, through the industry. And story goes, apparently Brandy was like, well, I'll only do it if you're my fairy godmother. And then Whitney was like, well, sure, why not? And I just feel like
I got this gold leotard laying around gathering dust.
Ready to go.
As well.
It's ready to go. But I think part of the reason that this movie is so special is because of the Whitney influence in more ways than one. I think a thing that I adore is the music production. I think the written score, like Rodgers and Hammerstein's work, is gorgeous. Like my hot take with Rodgers and Hammerstein is I think some of their best music is in Cinderella, compared to like the more prestigious musicals like Carousel and Sound of Music. And I feel like this is an early example when it comes to Rodgers and Hammerstein of like the old idiom that a good song will work in multiple genres. Like since this, we've had Rodgers and Hammerstein done in like Rita McEntire, for example, did South Pacific, and she put her Rita twang to it, and it sounded incredible. The most recent revival of Oklahoma, they went very modern country with it, and it works so well. And I feel like this is one of the first examples of like, let's take this modern style and apply it. And
I was going to say, I noticed lots of like bass beats in songs, and I was like, well, I know that couldn't have originally been there. No. That like makes it unique. And then also, again, like to me, because I lived at that time, I'm like, oh, that's a very late 90s sound to put that little bass beat behind things. Like
I think it works so like in my own little corner with Brandy, her being allowed to sing that song in her style, I think is why she comes to life in that number. Like I kind of mentioned, like, and it just this perfect synthesis, I feel, of what she's good at with really well-written material. And Impossible to me is like the best number. Well, there's a lot of good numbers, but I think Impossible is just where everything comes together gorgeously because it's Whitney doing her Whitney thing.
Yeah.
And so getting to have kind of the back and forth interplay between the two of them with, again, really well-written music, but having it like Whitnified, it's so good because you pretty well have like this meeting of musical geniuses spanning 50 some odd years to come together for something that's just so good. So yeah, like I love the Whitney of it there, but I also just love, by merit of her playing the fairy godmother, I think that character has a much more important role in this film that I would like to see in other Cinderella movies, because I feel like the other films, the godmother has just kind of shown up, done her thing, and left. Whereas in this film, she's really playing the role of a godparent, as like someone who's there to support. And I almost got on this rewatch, like when she showed up to say go to the ball, it was almost like she wasn't planning to do any magic. She was just there to give her the push, be like, just go to the ball, Cinderella. Oh, you need something to get there? Okay, I'll get you a coach. Not because you need it, but just because you need to get there. Sure, I'll give you the
Yeah.
dress. But like, this is the only Cinderella movie where I really feel they hit home the point of the godmother is here to push you to help yourself as
It was
opposed to.
almost a Tiana style story instead of a Cinderella story. Like,
Yeah.
you have to make it happen. I can give you the opportunity, but you need to make it happen.
Yeah, agreed. Then yeah, how did you feel about the witnification of the godmother, just as a character outside of the Michael's dress?
Outside of the outfit, I liked it. I thought it was cool. I thought the ending scene was a little weird. I don't know. She was just kept being in like random windows. That's what I meant. Like, it felt like a music video.
It,
Um,
it
but
reminded
the
me of
character
Will Smith
itself,
and
I
Prince
didn't mind
Ali.
it.
Yeah, but yeah, keep going.
Yeah, yes, like the genie in Prince Ali. Like, she just kept showing up places. It was like nobody knew she was there. She was just there. But it was that CG. It was the green screen stuff. But how she handled the character, I did enjoy, and I did think her being more like a mentor or a voice of reason was good.
Yeah. Yeah. And how'd you feel about the ball scene? I find it really interesting now that we're 4 Cinderella movies in, seeing how every adaptation chooses to address the ball. Some of them
Yeah,
barely there, like Ever After, she's humiliated there. I feel in some ways this and last week are similar in that they really give us time to sit in what's happening, which I appreciated. I
yeah,
also just love that musical number like 10 minutes ago. I think musically it's really beautiful, but again, I think this is where the Rob Marshall of it all really shines. I think the choreography, the ballroom choreography, is so beautiful, especially like with the dresses all being or all the costumes being in the same palette, which is interesting.
yeah. I do love when people do that where the dresses are in the same palette. I will say the dancing in that scene was giving Disney on Ice, which is fine. Like, that's cool. Or like Magic Kingdom stage show.
Yeah.
Those are things I enjoy. I like both of those things. And this was a Disney TV movie. Like, really, they're all kind of living in the same world, so
Mhm.
that's fine. It did feel a little kind of like, oh, okay, well, I've seen this before, but that, like, if familiar is not bad. It just
Right.
was just something that stood out.
Yeah, it felt so Disney. It felt so Disney.
It did. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What else happens at the ball? Oh, at the ball we get the stepsister song, which I always forget about.
That was one of my favorites. Like, as far as like during the movie watching it, I had a lot of fun watching that song. That was good.
Mhm. Why would a fellow want a girl like her? And those two are just so old, but they're so good.
Yeah, no, and I like seeing how each movie makes the stepsisters abominable. Like,
Mhm.
each one picks a different way to make them weird or awful or ugly or whatever the case is.
Mhm.
And I do like when they don't try to make them physically ugly, because I do think that that's like a subjective thing. And so yeah, I think the whole thing with like one girl being like too strong and then the other one being like annoying, for lack of a better word. And like, yeah, I thought that was interesting. And I like that the stepmother, like much like the one last week, that the
Mhm.
stepmother is attractive,
Right.
um, conventionally, whatever, but like pretty, and done up. But I do like that, like, people who kind of like don't like the stepmother, like Jason Alexander was like, get get away from me.
Yeah, those just the two of them together, it's so good. Just
Yeah.
especially how she's just like so aggressively flirtatious, even though she knows he's not into it, almost to the point where she uses it to make him uncomfortable. Like when she gives him the key. That's always been one of my favorite moments where she's like, okay.
Yeah. And he goes like, like, looks away. He's so great in that. Um, getting the ball, and I like how looking how movies handle the shoe thing. The
Hmm.
thing that kills me now that we're at the end of Cinderella month, I'll say it.
Hmm.
Two people are bound to have the same shoe size.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That always bothers me in these movies. And then I'd love to see, I'm sure there must be a note somewhere online, somewhere somebody knows this. All of those tights at the end look like they were made by the same company. And I'd love to know like who the designer was, maybe like if they were made for the movie or if they were purchased from a designer. Because like those tights were an interesting choice because they were very modern looking.
They're
And again,
giving
I don't think
spirit
anybody cared
Halloween.
as much about that back then.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I think this movie more so than others definitely it pushed my suspension of disbelief in terms of why don't they recognize her? Like they're 5 feet away. She's right there.
that always kills me too. I'm like, couldn't he rule out a good 2/3 of these people just by looking at him and going, well, it definitely wasn't her. Definitely wasn't her. Yeah, not her. She
Mhm.
wasn't that short. She wasn't that tall. You know, like whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
Um, also, can we that shoe, the shoe itself is a bad shoe. That's
That's
a
the same
bad
thing my
shoe.
mom said. She was like, "That's the ugliest slipper we've
That is
seen."
the worst.
I like the slipper.
That
No?
thing looks like I couldn't figure out if it was made of acrylic or if it was made out of the material they make like clear book bags out of. It
It
was
was
like,
well, that's also very 90s.
yeah, oh god, like there was no decoration on it. They didn't like spray it with something to make it glitter. Like put some glitter spray on it. Something. This thing literally looked like plastic. It was so bad. That
See, I guess
shoe was bad.
in theory, I don't mind the simplicity of a totally clear glass slipper. I think it has to do with the cinematography and also the shape, like that weird rectangle
Yeah,
jutting
that
out.
thing they had that looked like a church shoe that happened to be clear. It was not it was not a pretty shoe. It was not a stiletto. It wasn't like a pointy toe. It was like pointy but not real pointy. It might as well have been a freaking loafer. It was
And I mean, again, especially coming out of last week's movie, which had like the most gorgeous glass slipper of all time with the little butterfly and the Swarovski crystal embellishments. Swarovski.
yeah.
Yeah. To this, like, oh, yeah.
Like even when they put it on Brandy's foot, I was like, God, that also it's a choice to have her not have a stocking on and have a bare foot. Like it
That
looked
was
really weird.
yeah. That I actually noticed this last week. I clocked well, even before it happened, I remember thinking, is Kenneth Branagh actually going to show us Lily James's feet? Because I feel like maybe it's just the world we're in now where I'm more attuned to foot fetishes being a thing that like people will pay money for. I was like, are they really going to film some girl's toes? And then you don't actually see her toes in last week's movie.
No, I remember she had a nice stocking on compared to
Yeah, it was a stocking. That's why.
freaking Drew
Yeah.
Barrymore's stocking that was nasty
Yeah.
and
This is the first
gnarled
time we
and
saw
like
toes.
gross.
Oh no,
Yeah.
animated Cinderella, we saw toe.
Well, no, she has like a Barbie foot. She doesn't have toes. It's just a
She doesn't have toes.
no. It's
She
just
doesn't
a
have
it's
ears.
just a foot shape.
That poor girl. She doesn't have ears and she doesn't have toes.
And we wonder the body standards that women are expected to adhere to, Matt.
Disney princesses are the problem.
We can't have ears or toes now.
I was gonna say, like, well, Brandy had very nice toes, but that would be creepy.
She
But the words
had a
come out of
nice
my mouth.
pedicured hoof, okay? Like that was a nice pedicure. But that shoe is doing nobody favors and it's completely see-through. There's no translucence. Like it could have been translucent.
Mhm.
That would have been glass can be translucent. It doesn't need to be completely see-through. It's a bad choice of shoe. Bad shoe.
And well, kind of related, but really of no bearing. One of my memories of when this movie came out was Rosie O'Donnell had an entire episode dedicated to this movie where she just interviewed basically the whole cast. Whitney didn't show up. She canceled at the last minute. And I remember people being like, she's probably, doing the things that she does. But
Brandy, that's why she chose that's why she chose that thing.
Oh God. Maybe. But yeah, they were talking about the shoe scene, and Brandy's like fun fact was that the prop shoe that they were trying on everyone's foot was a 6 because her foot was like deemed too big, and she revealed that she's a 9. I don't know what that means in shoe world, but Brandy's a size 9.
Oh, well, then her and I are very similar. Depending on brand and type of shoe, I'm between an 8 and a 9. So I'm usually 8.5, 9.
The ugly slipper. You would fit the ugly slipper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That thing looked. I had a theory that the prop shoe that the prince was holding, like you said, was one size, and then that the one that she had to put on was going to have to be bigger. Because when they started showing it next to human feet, I was like, that thing's really small.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say, I don't think we mentioned this last week. One thing I appreciate about the Brana movie was in the narration, they at least acknowledge that the shoe is magic and it's only going to fit Cinderella. So,
Yes, I was like, you have to put a caveat in there and be like, or a caveat and be like, there's a reason. Although in this one, they kind of play it up like Bernadette Peters fits it. And they're like, but then it's like just barely fits. But
it cuts
yeah.
off her circulation. It's
Yeah.
great. Well, we talked about the shoe. What were your thoughts on this week's ball gown for Cindy? Because again, I don't know much about fashion.
This
I
is
like it.
this is one of my favorite ones. I do think that the skirt part leaves a little bit to be desired, but everything from the bodice, like the bottom of the bodice
Mhm.
up, I really love. I especially like her little, I don't know what these things are called, but the little droopy things right here, because they weren't actually fabric, they were hard and they had like stones
Oh,
on them and stuff, but they like gave a little bit. They like moved with her arm. So yeah, I like this one. I like this color. I like this style. But again, I love dresses from this time period, and whoever was doing this style did, whether consciously or subconsciously, incorporate some of like what was going on in prom dress world at
this
that time
does
in
feel like a
this.
prom dress.
Yeah. So
Yes.
this was this. I remember seeing this all over like Disney Adventures, and honestly all over the freaking teenage magazines like YM and all that. So yeah, like I really like this one. Whether it's because I just distinctly remember it so much, but I this color specifically is like, I like this color blue for Cinderella more than like last week's color blue.
Yeah, last week's is very aggressive.
Yeah.
I think it works in the context of that movie and how the cinematography worked. But like, were I to see that live, not so much. But I appreciate the hue of this, and I love her hair. I love the tiara. Like,
Yeah. And I like they paid homage to the, whether again intentional or not, but the animated Cinderella where it was like a little bit of a bun situation up here. Yeah, no, I enjoyed that. I will say, that although I'm thinking of her wedding hair now that I think about it, but the hair at the
right.
ball was similar-ish.
Mhm.
Um, but in the wedding scene, what was happening with the way that they were putting that scene together? Because we watched them waving, they're waving bye to everybody. They're
Mhm.
going in a carriage and they're kissing and like they go off, and then we keep seeing them, and then they pull in somewhere and they're kissing, and then they get married. It seemed like in reverse. It was really weird the way that last scene was like the wedding scene is edited.
Hmm.
It just seems like they just did a bunch of different shots of them waving and riding in carriages, and they had a wedding shot, and they just like kind of put them in whatever order they wanted to put them in.
Yeah, I think the main attraction there is supposed to be Whitney. So, but
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it definitely stands out.
yeah.
She stands out.
Actually, stand out above the crowd. Goofy movie. No, I didn't notice it, but I do know what you're talking about. The one thing I did notice about the wedding scene was that it felt more so than any other moment in the movie very much like it was lifted out of the animated film. Like there's just the one shot of like from behind them when they're in the carriage that looks like it's composed
Yeah,
very similarly in terms of just how it's shot, but also their costumes. Like I feel like the wedding costumes are so like beautifully inspired by the original Disney film, which is something that I appreciate. I like the throwback.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, her wedding hair, loved it. And I've seen people point out that um her look is very similar to Tiana in the blue dress, which is something that
Yeah.
I just never get out of my head. And so I like to imagine my Tiana Funko Pop in that outfit is of Brandy and Cinderella. Like
I wouldn't be surprised if whoever animated or designed or concept whatever for Tiana took that inspiration.
yeah. The sad
Because
thing is
this
that
would
she's
have been one of the first princesses of color
she
in
is.
the
I think
Disney pantheon, official Disney pantheon,
yeah, I think she definitely is the first Disney princess of color or the
It would have
first
been,
Cinderella, but I think she might be the first
it was
Cinderella.
her. Her and Pocahontas, if you count Pocahontas as a princess. I don't know.
Which, why wouldn't you? Well, I don't know.
Yoda from Mark. Did you just read his comment?
Yeah. Unless do you want to play Yoda? More than welcome. You're more than welcome.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. What was your favorite musical number of the whole thing?
I do think it might be the Stepsisters song.
Nice.
Like, thinking back, I think that was the one I had the most fun with. Impossible's, I mean, obviously Impossible's a beautiful song, and it's a great part of the movie. But I think the Stepsisters song.
Nice. It's a classic. It's a classic. And it's just always a nice little surprise. Anytime I see a version of Cinderella, I always forget about that song, but then when it starts, I'm like, oh yes.
Yeah, and it's because the Stepsisters don't get songs in most movies.
Mm-hmm.
Even the movies where they're really like well-shaped characters, and they like I it's not their song. I guess it kind of is. In Into the Woods, they have like kind of a song.
Oh, the toe cutting song. Careful, my toe, darling. I know. What'll we do? It'll have.
Yeah. So, but that's more of a talky. Those are, like I said before, those are my favorite Stepsisters.
Yeah,
like hands down, those are my favorite Stepsisters. But yeah, these are good. These are better than last week's Stepsisters, I think.
Yeah. I don't think I mentioned this last week. Was something I noticed the first time I saw it. I was surprised at how insignificant the Stepsisters felt. It was like they were just set dressing, and that was my thought when I first saw it in 2015, and even now. And I think it is definitely a choice. Like, the focus of the movie is not there. I think a Cinderella adaptation has the choice to make them prominent or not. And I do respect that Kenny didn't do that, but I do definitely enjoy when, I don't know, when you get to see something from them instead of them just being like interchangeable Tweedledums and Tweedledees. Like, again, that's my favorite thing about Ever After is the distinction between the two of them and having separate relationships.
Yeah, they might be the best as far as like the Stepsisters, as far as the actresses themselves and like how they, I don't know, because like those Stepsisters play such a big role in the story in Ever After, you know? And Into the Woods, it's like a predictable part of the story. It's the part of the story they're supposed to play. Like, they're not especially bright, but they do play a large role, bigger than the Kenneth Branagh one. But I like the balance in this one. Like, they're not shocking me, but also they do have more. They have like that touch of heart. Like, they do listen to Cinderella and they smile and they like get into the song when she starts singing. And I did enjoy that.
Yeah, I enjoyed that too. And that was something I forgot about this adaptation, was that they aren't very horrible. They're selfish and snotty, but they're not nearly as bad as the mom, for example.
No.
Yeah. Now, I thought that was an interesting thing too with Bernadette, is that it was just kind of like a steady build towards her being awful. Like, she really only got bad in my mind, post ball, when she realized that Cinderella was like the mystery princess. And then that's the thing I appreciate on this rewatch. I think it was shot really well just to visually convey like the penny dropping for her, just like the close-ups and the quick cutting, and then just her performance in that monologue where she's like, "You're common, Cinderella. Your mother was common, and so are you. To think that a prince would ever dance with you, it's laughable." It's like Bernadette Peters just doing her thing.
Yeah.
So, because and that was a thing that I sort of forgot, is that we didn't get the scene in this where Cinderella's told she can't go to the ball. Like, we didn't get that.
She told her, she says, "Oh, you don't want to go."
We got that, but like, we didn't get the like tear the dress apart. We didn't get that.
Oh yes, that. No, I did notice that.
So they just sang their song and went into.
There's no false hope in this one.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like that, she tries to like. This one is more grounded, almost, especially for being as short of a movie as it is. Mm-hmm. To be able to be that way is pretty interesting, because like, she wants to leave the ball early because she is being realistic. She decides to leave the house because she's like, "Oh, this is ridiculous. I'm getting out of here." You know, like, she does make much more grounded decisions.
Exactly. That's why I love it. So yeah, we're in an interesting position now, having watched so many Cinderella movies, that I kind of want to do a back and forth and just, I want us to pick our favorites of all the characters across all the adaptations. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we've kind of dabbled a little bit talking about like stepsisters versus stepsisters, but like
Yeah.
if you had to pick, let's start with the most boring. If you had to pick your favorite royals, king or king and queen combination, which movie for you was your favorite?
Probably this one.
You can't say
I
no
think,
to
yeah, Whoopi and Titanic guy are awesome.
Yeah, I think for me it's Derek Jacobi from last week. Specifically because I like the relationship between him and weirdly named Kit is a high point for me in that movie. And I just think he acts it really well. But I do love the dynamic between King and Queen in this. But again, I think it's better than the grandchild obsessed cartoony man from week 1 from the animated one where he's like, dreaming of little children. Yeah. Okay. And how about fairy godmother? Who's your favorite fairy godmother?
Oh, I mean, the original, for sure. The animated one, yeah.
I don't know. I'm leaning towards Whitney in her Michael's homemade dress.
Yep.
Yeah. Just largely because of Impossible. And again, it's the only. I do love animated fairy godmother, but yeah, Whitney put the mother in godmother. She served mother, and that's kind of like if I ever write my adaptation of Cinderella, which I started to do a few years ago. It was very good. No, it wasn't, but it had potential. But yeah, that's something that I would want to draw from and steal from because I think that's a relationship that there's more to explore than most adaptations do.
Yeah, I do think a fairy godmother can be stuck in a very interesting spot in a story. Like when in high school ages ago, when I wrote that adaptation of Peter Pan, that short story, like I was like, oh well, Tinkerbell and Peter Pan can be anybody. They don't, I'm like they can be anybody. It doesn't have to be like a magical person. So yeah, I think it's interesting, like where you could put a fairy godmother in the story if you wanted to.
That said, what about speaking of mothers? How about the stepmother? Who's your favorite? What is your favorite portrayal of stepmommy?
I'm so tempted to say Kate Blanchett, but I don't. It's not honestly. I don't know. Every time I watch that movie, I'm like, now like every watch I get less into that 2015 movie. The first time I watched it, I thought it was the best thing ever. Now, like every time I watch it, I'm like, I don't know. So it's not Kate Blanchett. I don't know. I mean, I can't just say the whole animated movie, but like,
you can.
Lady Tremaine's like.
Lady Tremaine is it. Lady Tremaine, like, she set the mold. Lady Tremaine, like, my answer is Lady Tremaine. Yeah.
I don't know. They're all so good. God, I would say that's the best character.
Oh yeah.
Like of the whole week.
Yeah.
You know what though? You know what? I'm going to give it to Angie. I'm going to give it to Angelica Houston because I think that her stepmother has the most important role of all of the Cinderella movies. Her and Lady Tremaine probably tied. Yeah. But I think she did it and she carried a lot of that movie.
Yeah. So. Agreed. Yeah, no, it's like I said, I think last week, the one thing all the movies have in common for me is the stepmother is never a miss. Like, I think she's always
has not been a single weak stepmother role.
They always get a good one, like a good actress, and she's always written in such a way that is compelling and unique to whatever the movie like version of the story is. Like they all fit in their world and contribute to it the way that they need to for that specific movie. Like I think Bernadette is perfect for this movie's stepmother. Same to be said for all the others.
Yeah, she was really perfect casting for this. She was amazing.
Like Bernadette's just so interesting because she's such a theatrical performer, but she's like suits film so well. Like she does subtlety so well, just like her little pouty face applied to the bitchiness of the stepmother. It just it's so good. It's so good. Is. Favorite stepsisters, which we kind of said, but let's lock in our answers.
Mine were Into the Woods. No, I think Stepsisters this week, it's probably the original animated movie. Like,
Ooh,
that's what I base everybody on. So out of this set, and I think we've said that before on this show when you're talking about actors, but in this case, it's animated, it just happens to be animated characters. But like, when somebody originates a role, to you, at least, like it's the first time you've seen it, and that's who you identify with that character. You
mhm.
all and like you go on to base things on that. Then to me, that's a definition of them being the best in
Yeah.
an opinion. Like, so yeah, I base all of my stepsister protocol on those two. So
Yeah, for me, it's the Ever After girls, just largely because of the innovation of having them be two distinctly different people. And again, for me, Ever After Jacqueline was the standout.
yeah.
Yeah, favorite prince.
Oh God, they're all pretty awful.
What about
Uh,
Pablo from this week? Pablo was great. He was charming. He had a beautiful
I
voice.
mean, honestly, I think it's probably this week's only because they didn't write him. He doesn't have a ton of depth, but they did not dumb him down. He is not a bimbo. He's not an airhead. He's not a pretty boy necessarily. Like, he's attractive, but he's not like some stereotypical. I hate that his name's Chris. Like, Prince Chris just doesn't sound great.
What's
But
better, Chris or Kit?
I know, I was gonna say, but then what's our other option, right? Like, so yeah, I mean, I guess I'll go with this week's then, yeah, because he's not an airhead, and he's like honest from the get go. Like, he meets her knowing she is a servant girl. It's not some like play around or anything. Like, he knows that he's looking for a servant girl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm torn between Rob Stark and this guy because I do really like both of them. Um, I don't know. I think I would give the edge to last week's to Rob Stark. I really like Prince Kit because from what I saw in Game of Thrones, I never thought much of him as an actor, but I really like his work in Cinderella. Mostly when his dad is dying and he's crying, and I'm like, oh, like this is touching. The guy can cry, so that's interesting. And I just think he has really good chemistry with Lily James. Yeah, like I feel for that movie and for Prince Kit as he exists on paper, for better or for worse. He's just yeah, he works for me. I enjoy that Prince, even though I do love this week's Prince as well. Um, yeah, his voice is really interesting because it feels equal parts classic Broadway, but also very like modern 90s pop singer. There was that one moment, Do I Love You Because You're Beautiful, that felt very much like a 90s R&B, like we're going to dance and bump and grind at prom song, which I thought was interesting, especially how they were holding each other, which was kind of
Yeah.
awkward. It was like, oh, okay. But his voice can do it all. So I love it. I think, do we only have Cindy left? I think we only have Cindy left. Who's our favorite Cinderella?
Oh,
Hmm.
I don't. I mean, I do. I know it's not Brandy. And again, like I don't want to say the original, but I also don't think it's Drew Barrymore. So then that leaves it down to Lily James or original Cinderella. And while I love Lily James and she did a great job with that movie, how like that Cinderella is not my favorite Cinderella. So I'm gonna have to go with a original animated Cinderella.
Yeah. It is tough for me because I do love qualities of all of them, but it does have to go to Lily for Lily over that character on paper. Because again,
Yeah.
my biggest issue with that movie is how decisively passive they made her in the last scene.
Yeah.
And I still hold issue with that. Like if last week's movie had an ending akin to this week's movie, last week's movie would be my favorite Cinderella, bar none.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just again, Lily to me brings this beautifully well thought out depth to a character that we all know, but I don't think I'd ever seen portrayed with that level of like that quality of acting. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
and
would, you know what's funny? I would also say my favorite Cinderella is probably in Into the Woods as well.
Anna
I think
Kendrick.
Anna Kendrick is my favorite Cinderella.
Well, yeah,
Also,
Cinderella
just the
as
way
she.
that Cinderella is written, but
Oh,
also,
right.
yes, Anna Kendrick as
She
her.
is the best.
Yeah.
She's the most. I was going to say she's the most interesting character in Into the Woods, but I don't know if I believe that. But there is a case to be made for that.
She's the most interesting Cinderella for sure.
Yeah.
I
Oh yeah,
think.
because she's the only Cinderella that makes the choice to leave the slipper to see what the prince will do.
And honestly, that stepmother, for not being a full Cinderella movie, they certainly have a wonderful like grasp on what Cinderella needs to be. That shoe is amazing too. The shoe in that
The gold
movie,
shoe.
yes, that's a beautiful shoe.
It's a nice shoe. It's a
Yeah.
nice shoe. But yeah, I think that Cinderella is interesting because, well, obviously Into the Woods is its own thing. It's hard for me to reconcile one from the other, even though it is very
Yeah.
much Cinderella. But like, what's just so unique is seeing what happens post wedding and seeing that she basically picks to go back to her old life, which I think is interesting, but like in a not toxic capacity.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
which she even says, she's like, sometimes I even enjoy cleaning. It's like, yeah. You know what?
Yeah.
Why not? Why not?
Well, I guess we're just lucky we've already done Into the Woods because we can reference it now because we've already done it.
Exactly. Oh, and bonus, favorite ball gown.
Favorite what?
Ball gown. Cinderella.
Oh, ball gown.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Out of the ones we watched this week, probably this one, probably Brandy's.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah. That or the animated one.
Mhm.
But the animated one, it's hard to, like there's no fabric involved. I almost feel like I gotta scratch that one out. Like you can't see textiles on that. It's not that detailed. Yeah, because like I don't even like the Ever After one. I'm like, is that a Cinderella dress? I don't know.
I don't like that dress. I was
Miriam
scared
would kill me for saying that.
I was scared to say it when Miriam was here. I think that dress is ugly.
It's not to me. It's not an ugly dress. It's just not a Cinderella dress. Like to me, Cinderella, and it's because of the animated film. It's because of the indoctrination of like Cinderella goes like this. Like I don't, Sleeping Beauty does this. Cinderella does this. Like
What does Belle do? What does Belle do?
Belle's a knockoff. She
Belle
just
does
looks like
this.
yeah. Hers is about her bodice.
Yeah.
Whereas Cinderella's about the bottom. You can change up the bodice on Cinderella, and I may not notice as much, but I do like when it is like kind of traditional, where it's either strapless or a little bit over here with the puff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like the Ever After one, I was like, that's an Empire waist. That's not Cinderella. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess I'd say Brandy's.
Very nice. Yeah, for me, it's always a toss up between animated and Lily James. Yeah, I am always enamored by the dress from the live action movie from the Lily James. But the animated one set the standard.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. No, but
The animated one did make everybody think it was blue, even though we love the blue.
That's true. That's true. No, I think I'm still going to go with the Lily James one, just specifically because of how it moves. And again, it's for me, the beauty of that movie is how cohesive all the departments are. And the fact that wasn't just designed to be like a beautiful dress. It was designed to convey that moment that like everyone knows going into a Cinderella movie, the ball has to be special. There has to be something magical about when the two of them start to dance. And the dress was designed for that specific purpose. Like if the same mentality was applied to Emma Watson's dress in Beauty and the Beast, that movie would be slightly better.
But... Yeah. Well, and I think sometimes too with those movies, specifically the live, those live action, they depend too much on CGI, which other than Marvel, I'm like, don't CGI clothes. Like I understand they wanted the little butterflies and stuff on the Lily James dress, but like I feel like after that they really started like digging in, like in Aladdin, same thing.
CGI'd? Was her dress did have CGI?
Oh no, I don't know. I'm saying back then they may not. Like I know when she first got it, it was like there was a little bit of CGI, like they were moving and stuff. When she's at the ball, it's not. Mm-hmm. But then like I feel like the Emma Watson one is CGI, like even when it's on her.
I wouldn't be surprised. What else? I'm trying to think. Are there any others? Like any other classic Disney ball gowns that had to be live actionified?
They live actioned Jasmine. I don't know if hers is like that or not. I never made it past the first third of that movie. So.
Oh, I like that movie. Now, Jasmine's her outfits are just like their own thing, which are beautiful, but they're just so they're so innately detailed that they don't exactly have like one identifiable feature, let's say, in terms of like shape or color, the same way most Disney princess outfits do. And like Ariel didn't really, because she just wore like that one seafoam dress when she was a human in live action.
Oh wow, she's not in any other like nice gowns in that
When
movie.
she
I
gets
never did get around
married,
to watching that one.
when she gets married, she has a wedding dress, but it's very much like it's not really a wedding dress. It's like a flowy beach.
So she just wears like that little peasant dress around the town?
Yeah. Yeah.
How boring.
Yeah.
I never did watch that one. I guess I got to sit down and watch it
If
one day.
we do Mermaid, so
Yeah, I'm scared of Javier Bardem being bad.
he is. Just make your peace with it. He's the worst part of that movie.
I don't think he does the CGI stuff well. We watched him in Pirates, and it was like, I love you, Javier, but this is not happening well.
No, it's not it. Oh wait, Snow White. That dress was nice, even though the whole internet would disagree with me because that's how they. But I thought Snow White's dress was
by looking at the ads, that one's heavily CGI'd, I would say.
Really?
I mean, at least in the ads, it looks that way. But
I mean, not to brag, I saw an exact replica, not screen used, but replica at Toronto's castle. It was very underwhelming to look at it and be like, "Oh, was this screen used?" They were like, "No, but it's an exact replica." I was like, "Oh."
So it's a dress, okay.
It was a very nice dress. It just, when they did that for Beauty and the Beast 10-ish years ago or whatever, they were screen used costumes that they brought. I'm just saying, why
they had for years, not that this has anything to do necessarily other than being a dress on display, but they had for years at the little the museum after the Backlot tour in Hollywood Studios.
Oh, right.
They had Vivian Lee's green and white dress from Gone with the Wind.
What?
And my parents would have to pry me because I would just literally sit on the floor and stare at that dress.
Like it was the one that was on. Wait, is that the curtain dress or is it the one?
I do think it's the curtain. If I remember, yes, it's the green and white one. So like the green velvet bodice and then like the white, or it's the one at the beginning. I think it's towards the beginning when she's sitting in the.
The curtain dress has the tassels and it's
bigger. Yeah, no, this is the one. That one's green, but that's a different one. This is the one she's sitting out like talking to the boys in, I believe.
Oh, okay.
And so I would just sit and stare at that dress because I knew it was, and she was like, her waist was literally, I think that it was a 22 or 24-inch waist. I think it was a 22-inch waist. Like, it looked like a large doll's dress. She was so tiny.
And also she would have been corseted too, which would have like as tiny as she was, it would have been even like
But it's like you get this weird vibe when you see a screen used piece of clothing.
And I would argue you get a different weird vibe when you know that it's a replica because it's like, well, then what's the point? Why am I looking?
Why is it in glass? Why can't I touch it?
Exactly. Like I just found out I'm doing research for a video that hopefully will come out within the next week. Wicked theme parks, Wizard of Oz theme parks part 3. But I thought the thing that they had at Universal Orlando, the Wicked experience, I thought they were all screen used costumes and they are apparently all replicas. Which is so disappointing. I didn't go.
I guess you don't want the risk of somebody doing something stupid at a theme park and stuff.
Yeah, but still, it's like, and that it's the same. Like I went to a Harry Potter exhibit long before J.K. Rowling came out as being the trash human that she is, and it was a touring thing that was here in Toronto, and I thought that they would all be like screen used movie props and sets and everything because they didn't say that that's what it was, but they were like walk through and see all the props and costumes from the movie. I was like, cool, and then they were just replicas, and that started this issue I have with these things because it's like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Why you just took my money so I can look at
clothes?
What? Yes.
Yeah. I could have gotten a Nordstrom rack. Thank you.
Exactly. It's like if Ariana Grande didn't fart in this bubble dress, I don't want it.
Okay. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. And there it is. Anyway. Cinderella month. Woo!
Yeah.
I did have a game, but we can't really play with one person. Well, we could try. Feel free to play in the comments. Do I even know what the answers are? The name of this game is, hold on, Whitney or Rodgers and Hammerstein. I'm going to put the title of a song on the screen, and you have to tell me if it's a Whitney Houston song or a Rodgers and Hammerstein song.
Okay.
Yeah. I would like to thank ChatGPT for generating this list for me because I was too lazy to do it myself. Here we go. First, A House Is Not a Home. Is that Whitney or Rodgers and Hammerstein?
Rodgers and Hammerstein.
Let me consult Jen. No, that's Whitney. That's a Whitney, right?
Wow.
Next, He Was Beautiful.
Rodgers and Hammerstein.
That's Whitney.
Jeez.
Whitney. Next, Sweetest Sounds.
Now I know if I say Whitney, it's not going to be Whitney. Rodgers and Hammerstein.
Yes, it's in this movie.
Okay.
It's this movie.
Oh, yeah, duh.
The sweetest sounds I'll have. One thing that's fun about this movie is that they took other Rodgers and Hammerstein songs and just infused them into this film.
Oh.
Like Falling in Love with Love is from The Boys from Syracuse, and it's a Rodgers and Hart song. But they wanted to give a showcase to Bernadette Peters, so they borrowed it, which I think was a brilliant choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we got friends playing in the comments. Woot. All right. I'm too lazy to keep score. Everyone just keep track of your own scores. We'll see who wins.
I know I've got 2 wrong. I've only got 1 right.
You got 1 right. Next. You Were Loved. You Were Loved.
Wasn't that in this one? Whitney.
Yes, it's a Whitney.
Yay.
That's 2. That's 2 for Tinker J. Yes. Yoda and Martha, keep track of your own scores. We'll compare at the end. Next. We Kiss in a Shadow.
Oh, gosh. Rodgers and Hammerstein.
Yes, it's Rodgers. I don't even know what this is from. Hold on.
I don't know. It sounds like a Phantom of the Opera song. I'm like, that's not this.
It is from... Oh, it's from The King and I. I forgot it. Oh, The King and I is so good.
Oh, I do love The King and I haven't watched it in a long time, but I do remember loving that when I was in like middle school and early high school. Yeah.
Animated or live action or both?
Oh, animated. There's an animated one?
Yeah, that was actually how I discovered The King and I. It was
with the
yeah.
Yeah, the guy from Westworld. What's his name?
Yes, Yul Brynner.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, he's so good. But yeah, no, there's an animated film that was released in the mid to late 90s, and it was like a not Disney studio trying to make a Disney film. So they just took The King and I, and they used all of Rodgers and Hammerstein's music. They added this very unnecessary subplot with a villain that was very much like a pseudo Jafar type character.
Yes, no, I have seen. Okay, I haven't watched the movie, but I've seen like backstories on it in like videos about stuff. Yeah. He looks a little like Rasputin from Anastasia.
I think so. Yeah, and his sidekick keeps losing his teeth. That was a thing as well. His sidekick has beautiful teeth, and they're all gone by the end of the film. Yeah, it might be worth a revisit. Who knows? Next, Someone Like You.
Adele. No. That's an Adele song. Jungle Book. No. I'm gonna say Whitney Houston.
No, it's a Rodgers and Hammerstein. And I don't know what it's from. Hold on. Rodgers and Hammerstein.
That's probably King and I too, as well, right?
Oh, actually, I feel like ChatGPT lied. I don't think it's a real song. So never mind. That one's moot. Give yourself a... This is why we can't totally depend on AI. Next, Do I Love You Because You're Beautiful?
Oh, well, that's Rodgers and Hammerstein.
Yes.
In there
tonight. That was in this. Run to You.
That's Whitney.
That is Whitney.
Yes.
Oh, well done. People Will Say We're in Love.
I think that is Rodgers and Hammerstein.
It is Rodgers and Hammerstein. I do know that one. That one's from Oklahoma. Even though the title could definitely be a Whitney song.
I know. That's why I was like, yeah, that could be
Don't
Whitney.
throw bouquets at me. You give good love.
Whitney Houston.
Yeah. Imagine if Rodgers and Hammerstein wrote a song called You Give Good Love. What would that even be?
Yeah, right. I'm like,
Anyway, wow, how many points do you have, Jeanette?
I have 7 points.
7. Martha and Yoda. And is it just meow or what? Let us know how many points you have. We'll see who won. It's very loosey goosey.
You know, when I came to get on the show this evening, there was a hot battle going on Jeopardy. There was a wonderkin who is an undergraduate in college. He's 20, and he looks like he's 14. He's very giving big Sheldon Cooper energy.
Love that.
And then there was another person that was on there as well, and they were on there. It was their first day, obviously, because this guy's been winning. The kid's been winning for 3 days, and this person was beating him, but they were like neck and neck, like they were $800 away from each other the whole time. And then they got to Final Jeopardy, and the third contestant was at $0, so he was out. So it was just those two. And when I came down here, they had just gotten their Final Jeopardy topic.
Ooh, love that.
Like, dang, I don't know who won. Now I got to know. It's a heated battle. I love Jeopardy, if you can't tell.
do. Oh yeah, I don't have a bonus question, so we'll just say Jeanette won. Yay!
Yay! Martha had 4.
Yeah, Yoda, nothing to bet on.
Yoda bet it all.
Yoda won. Why not?
Yeah. Yoda's always the winner.
Yoda's always the winner. All right. Well, there we go. Closing thoughts, Jeanette, on Cinderella. What have you learned about yourself, about Cinderella, over these last 4 weeks?
Cinderella month was a lot of fun. I loved revisiting these movies. They all are very, very different. Like it's funny. Tonight when I sat down, there was a whole bunch of Cinderellas on the screen because I just searched Cinderella. My daughter goes, "Why are there so many Cinderellas?" And I was like, it is one of the most told stories, and the fact that these 4 movies are all so different is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It's got to be like Dracula. It's got to be like one of the most told stories in like storytelling, human storytelling, since its inception, whenever it was written. You know, and so I had a lot of fun. Cinderella's great. I've rekindled love of Cinderella, I suppose. She was always, before they expanded the princess verse, like in the 90s ish, like when I was growing up, there were like 4 princesses, you know, and Cindy was my favorite of those. So
yeah, I agree. I've always known that I've loved Cinderella as a story, but it takes revisiting any given movie for me to remember just how much I love the story. And it's been interesting, I think, comparing this month to other times we've done similar things, like different iterations of the same story, because we've done Peter Pan, we've done Alice, and I really enjoyed those marathons as well. But it's just, to me, like worlds apart with how versatile Cinderella is compared to those others. And like, it is very obvious to me why this is like the most the most timeless, I guess, out of pretty well all stories, because it just speaks to such a human experience of being in a challenging situation and imagining what it would be like to be lifted out of that in the broadest terms possible. Like, it's the most basic story that speaks to a very human need that I think can just be reinterpreted so many different ways. Yeah.
Like I said, I think that the movie Pearl is a Cinderella story. For anybody who's watching this or listening to this that has seen Pearl, it has all of the notes of a Cinderella story. Like that, her whole storyline. Now, she's not, being kind and being courageous. She's being courageous. She's not being kind. But like, it has those notes. So it is, I think, even if that wasn't intentional, like Cinderella has its tendrils in storytelling in general.
Yeah, that was my thought when I saw Cruella. I feel like Cruella is more a Cinderella movie than it is a 101 Dalmatians reboot.
I still have to watch that. Do you know I still haven't seen that? And I love Emma Stone. I still haven't watched that.
You have Disney Plus again. You can watch it now.
Let the people know.
No, sorry. I mean, you're using my login, so you have access to it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, time to go. Tell everyone who you are. We'll start with Jeanette.
Hi, that's me. I'm Jeanette. You can find me here, and you can find me on We Like Theme Parks podcast. We have a new episode tomorrow. It is me and Bondo for the Bondo takeover for Bondo's birthday. So just tune in. It's just a hoot and it's fun. And I can't wait to see what we're doing next month because you'll be as surprised as I am because I don't know yet either.
Probably mermaids.
Yay. Okay. Oh, can we do the Cher movie?
There aren't any mermaids in that. I checked.
I know, but I've never seen it and I really want to see it.
Okay. We'll see. Okay. Bye. Bye. It's me now. Thanks for watching. It's probably mermaids next month. We'll see. Check the channel. Like, subscribe. There are apparently 9 of you watching. If all 9 of you leave a comment, I don't know. It'll make me happy. Please do it. That's it. Bye. How do you end this?